Hi guys, you're here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we are doing Saturday Night Lore. Today I'll be reading you two stories. They're both about witches, which is really cool, and we're reading out of the Wicked Mortals Lore book. Yes! Okay, remember when I want to show you my newly designed closet. It was just a mishmash of moon water and all this wasted space up here. And I got those, I'll show you my closet on a different video, what I've done with it. But it's really cool. I got those new card organizing shelves, and they're what inspired this whole thing. So now I sit right here and it looks like I have deer horns on my head. Yeah, I'm so excited about that. Okay, so now we're reading two stories from this book today. They're both nice and short and grabbing, meaning like it leaves you feeling really creepy and like, yes, you know, I love that. So we're starting with After Sunset. Okay. Hannah Hovey lost her husband long before the rumors began. Or maybe it was just his death that gave birth to them. You see, Captain John Joseph Hovey had been a sailor, but he died on land under difficult-to-explain circumstances. He was found with a broken neck at the base of a local cliff on their town of Monroe, Connecticut. Perhaps it was because she lived alone. Perhaps it was the rooster she kept as a pet, who had an eerie habit of crowing only at midnight. Or maybe it was just that, like so many women before her who wore the title of witch, she was cranky, difficult woman. Totally. Witches are cranky, difficult women. Me. Perhaps it was difficult because she... Oh, I'm sorry. Cranky, difficult woman. Where are we? Up until the 1690s, witchcraft in the American colonies had been a crime punishable by death. Tragedies similar to the Salem witch trials were recorded in countless communities across much of what is now known as New England, here in America. But thankfully, the events in Salem brought the issues to a level of attention that warranted changes. No longer were accused witches executed for their fabricated crimes. Still, that didn't even mean that the accused were free from repercussions. Very much like the world we live in today, it was all too easy to hang the noose of social stigma over the heads of anyone who refused to play along. Hannah Hovey was one of those kinds of people. I get it. It was a shame, really. She went out of her way to be helpful when she was needed. You see, Hannah was known throughout the town as a witch, not simply just because she had a sharp tongue and a quick temper, but because she had certain skills. And when the people of Monroe needed help for a particular type, they reluctantly leaned on her for assistance. Once a farmer came to her and begged for her help. The town had been suffering through a drought for weeks, and this man's crops were dying. Naturally, he was desperate for a solution, and that desperation led him to Hannah Hovey. Hannah agreed to help him. She would bring the rain, she told him, but only if the farmer pledged his soul to her, right there in front of the house. According to the legend, every time I look I lose my place. According to the legend, the farmer eagerly fell to the floor and offered her his very soul at that very minute. Who does that? Who has lack of appreciation for life so much? I don't get it. It rained that night, and the next, and many nights after that. And the farmer, whose crop had been withering through the drought, watched as it grew in abundance. They called her the Wicked Witch of Monroe. They referred to her as Hannah Karana. It was said among the people of the town that her house was guarded by serpents. Awesome. They whispered to one another about how she would sit atop a tall stone outcropping near Cutler's farm road, where she seemed to be surveying the land as if it were her very own kingdom. Her reputation grew, and Hannah eventually learned to use it to her advantage. It was said that even though she had no income or fortune of her own, she never went hungry or cold because the people of the town gave her what she needed. But they weren't doing it out of generosity. No, no, no. They were payments grounded in fear. Her reputation grew, and Hannah eventually learned to use it to her advantage. Oh, I'm sorry. Once she visited the home of a local farmer and demanded food from them. The farmer's wife was famous for her pies, but when the woman refused to give one to Hannah, the witch was said to have cursed her. The woman never baked a pie again. Don't mess with a witch. Just don't. The day soon came when her pet rooster finally died, and the next day Hannah told the neighbor that her time too was drawing near. She told the neighbor that she had specific wishes for how her burial would be handled. Specifically, she asked for her coffin to be carried only by foot to the cemetery, not by wagon. She also requested she be buried after sundown. Remember that as we read the rest of the story. The following day was white and cold, as a winter storm had blown into town. Almost if she had predicted it, Hannah Hovey died. By midday, she was given last rites, which doesn't make any sense if you know what last rites are. It's a Catholic tradition where they come in and basically like lead you to your next life or your next travels and say a prayer to end this life. Last rites are definitely, Anyway, she was given last rites, placed in a coffin, and the community moved to bury her quickly during the daylight hours. This pisses me off. Like, if you have a dying wish, just fulfill it, no matter, like, it's the person's dying wish. Come on. Unfortunately, the snow made carrying her coffin difficult, obviously, so a wagon was brought in to help. But things got worse. The coffin kept rolling off the wagon, so they strapped it down. After that, the straps broke, sending the wooden box tumbling to the ground. No matter what they tried, the men could not get the coffin to stay on the cart. And after one last spill that sent it sliding back down the hill toward her house, the men decided it might be better to try to just carry it. Yeah, you think so? It was her dying wish, for Pete's sakes. It was difficult work, to be sure, but the pallbearers eventually moved her coffin safely to the cemetery. Because the work had taken so long, the burial took place just after sundown. Just how she wanted it. Exactly as Hannah had wanted. After a difficult afternoon, the men returned to town, trudging through the snow and the wind, their bodies sore from the exertion. When they got there, though, they found one last bit of resistance from Hannah Cranna. Her house had mysteriously caught fire and was blazing out of control. The fire lasted days, they say. Eventually, though, the embers died down, and the wreckage, what was left of it anyway, was cleared away, leaving nothing but wide, stone-lined hole that had been this house's cellar. It was said that whenever someone visited the remains of that cellar, strange sounds would be heard. Moans, scratching, whispers in the cool air night, even laughter. Even today, people say that similar sounds can be heard. All you have to do is visit the site of the old home at night. If you're brave enough, of course. So that was After Sunset. And come back next for another episode of Lore with me, Jen, the Taxidermy Witch, because I have another witchy lore right now. All my love. Look at my horns.